I didn't just want to build a brewery. That wasn't my goal. My goal was to help women feel like there was a product that was made with them in mind, with her in mind. So I had moved to Chandler, Arizona, and I was living in this house and alone and had mortgage payments at 24 years old, so I needed a roommate. And my roommate lived with me for a couple of years, but the first birthday that I had, he bought me a brewery kit for my birthday and was just out of a whim, thought that I would really enjoy brewing beer. And so a few weeks later, we brewed the very first beer, which was a Belgian Chapelle. I just fell in love with that process, with enjoying bringing smiles to people's faces while producing a product, or that product just so happens to put a smile on people's face. It became a hobby and something that we were trying to experiment with and create new recipes. And that hobby quickly turned into, from a 5-gallon brewery kit in my kitchen to a 15-gallon brewery, actually 25-gallon brewery kit in my garage. We were very popular back then. And we just loved brewing. I loved brewing, and I was really serious about it. I don't know if they were, but I was really serious about making sure that everything was clean and sanitized. And I didn't really drink beer while we were making beer because I really wanted the product to come out good, like delicious. And I was scared of messing up if we had beer while we were making beer. So I was really serious about it. And we just toyed around with the idea of building a brewery. And it was that time that I even thought about another job ever. You know, I kind of saw myself climbing a corporate ladder. I worked for corporate America. It's a 100,000 person company. It had everything that I thought I wanted in this upward trajectory, going as far as I could in a corporate job. And it was safe and comfortable, and I was good at it. It was, you know, that kind of glimpse into toying with the idea. That's all it needed to be at the time, was this is actually something you could do, and we should do it. We should build a brewery. And so we had on our wall, we had a poster named TBD Brewery. And it was just fun to think about. And it was the first time I had ever made a business plan, and it was not a business plan. And it was the first, we had sessions where we just talked about what would we do if we were going to build a brewery. And that never left my head. It never left my head after that. So having kind of an analytical background, I knew I needed some data to back up this theory that I had. That was that women were feeling left out of the beer industry. And so I started in February of 2017 a business with an LLC and everything, business called The Elegant Beer Drinker. The Elegant Beer Drinker. My main goal was to understand my market. So I hired a marketing firm, and I was working a corporate job at the time that was local, and with the goal to start Greenwood Brewing. And so my marketing team and I put together a survey that surveyed 200 women all over, women beer drinkers and non-beer drinkers, to understand how they felt about the beer industry and how they felt about purchasing and consuming this beverage. So everyone was a wine drinker too, which wine was becoming the big thing for women. And as a beer drinker, I was just wondering, where are the women at in the beer industry? And are there women in the beer industry? And what do they want? And do they feel the same way, that they don't feel included? And so the survey was going on. As the survey was going on, the Brewers Association, which is the national organization of brewers in the United States, was also conducting similar research that I had no idea. And their research came out very shortly after my marketing research came out. And it was very similar questions that was targeted to women and men in the beer industry, but it was really trying to understand the women of the beer industry. And they found that 72% of women felt underrepresented in the beer industry, and that women really did not feel like that they were being represented. They were feeling like they had a place. And I was finding the same information from my data, was that women were feeling underrepresented, which was fascinating because 50% of women drank beer, and there was 70% of those women drank craft beer. And so we had this whole market of people that were not being targeted, that were not being made, their products were not being made for them or with them in mind. There was only 2% of breweries that were owned by women only, and that 78% of breweries were owned by men, all men. And so of course it made sense to me. Of course women didn't feel represented because there weren't women producing the product. 2% of breweries were producing products that were thinking about themselves as consumers. And so I saw this as, a huge opportunity, and just kind of got excited about what we could do to really help women feel like they were part of this industry, and that they had a product that really thought about them as a woman consumer. And so that, it still gets me excited thinking about it, about the market, about the data that we found. And that really gave me the go-ahead to take on starting a brewery. And so my next step was figuring out how to do that. And I had never owned my own business besides Elegant Beer Drinker, which was a marketing company at that point. I was creating blogs and learning about women and beer. And so I did what I thought was the first best step, which was finding other women in the industry. I was looking up women beer drinking organizations or something that I could resonate with other women in this industry. And there was the Pink Boots Society was having a meeting the very next day, and our local Pink Boots Arizona chapter was having this meeting, and it was divine intervention or a divine moment for me. It was like, this is right, you're here, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And so I went to this meeting and I wrote Megan with the Elegant Beer Drinker on my name tag. And I met all these women in beer, and women brewers, women in marketing, women in sales. And I just knew that this was my space. I was gonna fit right in. And so I met a woman that told me that they had open capacity at their brewery, and the light bulbs went off in my head, and I was like, if you have excess capacity, I want to use it. I learned about contract brewing that other businesses had done in the past, and was like, that's how I do it. And I start with contract brewing. And so that's where I met this woman. She told me they had excess capacity, and I was like, awesome, I need to use that. Can I use it? And so for the next 6 months, it was negotiating a contract with a local brewery to take a risk to put Greenwood Brewing, which was still Elegant Beer Drinker at the time, I think, as a brand underneath their microbrewer's license, and take a chance on me and this crazy idea. And they did. And so here we are. We started brewing, contract brewing. My marketing team really, really wanted me to change the name from Elegant Beer Drinker and loved my last name. And so that's where the shift came to Greenwood Brewing. I was like, okay, yeah, I love that. I have family that own pharmacies and grocery stores back in Iowa that are Greenwood Pharmacy and Greenwood Grocery. So I was like, oh, that fits right in with our kind of our family name. And so we went with it. And on December 4th, 2017, I launched my first beer, Her Story Brew, at Brought House in Scottsdale. We had, I think, like 150 people that came to the launch, and we gave out samples of the future Greenwood beer that was brewed at Freakin' Brewing Company that helped me contract brew with them, and that's how we started. I didn't just want to build a brewery. That wasn't my goal. My goal was to help women feel like they had a place in this industry, or not even in this industry, that there was a product that was made with them in mind, with her in mind. As I was reflecting back, to come full circle, I was reflecting back on why did this business attract me, and why did I want to go into brewing and quit my job, and why did I feel like this was something that there was lacking, that there was an opportunity, or there was something that was lacking in this product. I realized that these important conversations we were having them over beer. And so there is power in this avenue that we have, that's beer, this medium that we use is beer. And people do really get honest over craft beer. And they tell their story, and they tell their perspective. And so what I really want our location to focus on is the power of that beer and the power of the purposeful pint, and to really create a location that inspires strong conversation and brings up topics that maybe aren't very popular to talk about in an environment that's calm and that people aren't going to get really riled up about, but that you can have an honest conversation over this product that we create. And hopefully with this new perspective, you may change. You may change your outlook on a certain topic, and that is powerful. That just a medium that we call beer can, and the conversation that's had over it, can create an outcome that you never expected that could actually change you. And that's something that is so exciting to me.